All right, let's jump right into this explainer and peel back the layers on exactly how our backgrounds dictate our buying habits. We make choices every single day, literally from the coffee we drink to the clothes we wear. And we really like to think we're making these choices completely on our own. But are we really? Today, we're going to look at the invisible, shared forces that are actually steering our shopping carts.
Think about your own daily habits for a second. Have you ever wondered why people in different parts of the world, or honestly, even different parts of the same exact country, prefer vastly different foods or clothes or celebrate different festivals? Just consider why certain products are massive, off the charts hits in one region, but totally flop in another. Or why some families put all their extra cash toward education, while others might spend it on travel or entertainment. Well, the answer doesn't just come down to individual quirkiness, it all comes down to culture.
So, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The power of culture. 2. Learning the rules. 3. Subcultures and identity. 4. The role of social class. And 5. Why marketers care. We're going to zoom in progressively, starting with the broadest concepts of culture and working our way all the way down to how marketers use this very specific data to understand you.
Okay, Section 1, the power of culture.
Anthropologist E.B. Tyler gives us this really foundational academic definition of culture as a complex, shared reality. But for us, the most interesting word in his whole definition is acquired. Culture isn't something you're just born with biologically. It's not like your eye color, right? It's a shared reality that we acquire simply by living as a member of a society. It's the sum total of absolutely everything we absorb from the people around us.
Basically, in simpler terms, culture is like a giant shared rulebook that teaches us what's acceptable, what's desirable, and what's appropriate. And because it dictates our whole way of life, it directly shapes what we choose to consume. I mean, it affects what we think we need in the first place, how we evaluate a product against our peers, when we actually pull the trigger to buying it, and even how we dispose of it once we're done.
Now, this rulebook breaks down into a few interconnected pieces that drive our everyday actions. You've got values, which are our core principles, like prioritizing health or family welfare, and these heavily dictate our purchasing priorities. If a society values collective well-being, you better believe their purchases will reflect that. Then there are beliefs. These shape our attitudes towards specific brands and whether we trust them or not. Customs and traditions drive our behavioral norms. These are those highly specific ceremonial purchases we make during festivals or weddings that are entirely dictated by the culture we belong to. And finally, language and symbols. This is how we process information. Successful brands absolutely have to adapt their communication to fit the local language and respect cultural symbols if they even want to be understood, let alone purchased.
Moving right along to Section 2, learning the rules.
So, since culture isn't biological, we have to learn it. But how do these rules get programmed into us? Well, there are two distinct ways. The first is enculturation. This is the process of absorbing your native culture right from childhood. Your family, your schools, your local institutions, they teach you the social norms and buying habits of your own people, totally organically. On the flip side, we have acculturation. This happens when you learn and adapt to a completely new culture later in life. And in our modern world of globalization, digital media, and constant migration, acculturation is happening literally everywhere. You keep aspects of your original culture, sure, but you adopt new values, preferences, and shopping behaviors from a brand new one.
All right, Section 3, subcultures and identity.
Because no massive society is totally uniform, we have to look at how smaller, distinct identities form under that main cultural umbrella. This is exactly where subcultures come into play. They allow a group of people to keep the broad, overarching societal rules while simultaneously developing highly specific, unique characteristics and purchasing preferences based on their own focused identity.
These subcultures form around several core categories. For instance, regional groups can have wildly different preferences. Just think about how regional food habits in a diverse country like India will dramatically alter an everyday grocery list, depending on what state you're in. Religious subcultures influence what can and can't be consumed, driving specific localized celebrations. Language creates totally distinct media consumption habits. And age? Age is a massive subculture. Teenagers have entirely different purchasing priorities and brand loyalties compared to senior citizens. Even your occupation creates a subculture. Your career influences your lifestyle, your income bracket, and the specific things you feel you absolutely need to buy just to fit in professionally.
Zooming in even further, we hit Section 4, the role of social class.
Moving beyond subcultures, we hit socioeconomic brackets. This divides consumers by their resources and status, which is known as social stratification.
It's basically the classification of a society into different levels or classes. This stratification creates relatively permanent groups of people, and because they share similar economic realities, education levels, and social prestige, they end up sharing very similar lifestyles and, consequently, very similar buying patterns. When we break down Indian social classes, for example, we can see exactly how purchasing power dictates priorities. The upper class, with high incomes, naturally gravitates toward premium brands, status symbols, and luxury experiences. Then you have the middle class, which is a massive, highly critical consumer segment. They are super value conscious, they want quality at reasonable prices, and they prioritize spending on future-proofing, so they invest heavily in education, healthcare, and savings. Meanwhile, the lower income group navigates life with limited purchasing power, so they are incredibly price sensitive. Their focus requires careful budgeting, primarily geared toward essential daily goods. But because of their enormous population size, they are still a highly significant market force that brands fiercely compete for.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Why Marketers Care.
So, how do businesses actually use all this sociological data in the real world? Why does a company selling soap or smartphones care about things like enculturation or social stratification? Well, they care because ignoring it is a total recipe for disaster. Organizations deeply study these cultural layers to design products that actually fit the lifestyle of their target market. They use this data to develop culturally appropriate ads and pick the right communication channels that truly resonate with specific subcultures. But more than anything, they do it to avoid incredibly costly cultural misunderstandings. A brand has to build real trust, and you can really only do that by speaking the local language, both literally and symbolically. So the crucial takeaway is this: if a brand ignores the cultural context of its market, it fails. Full stop. A highly successful product in one country can totally crash and burn in another if these factors are ignored. Successful marketers aren't just out there pushing items, they are seamlessly fitting their products into the existing, culturally learned lifestyle of the consumer. It's a pretty fascinating thought to leave you with, isn't it? We all love to feel completely autonomous in our choices. But as we've explored in this explainer, our values, our region, our social class, and our learned behaviors are just constantly guiding our hands. So next time you reach for that favorite brand on the shelf, take a second to ask yourself, did you really choose it, or did your culture choose it for you? Thanks for joining me, and keep questioning the world around you.